Oh boy. So I am probably the most insane guy going on right now. I've talked about the continuity and whatnot of DC, but I never talk about the continuity going on in the Marvel Universe because I do not read much Marvel comics these days. Like, the only Marvel comics I'm reading currently are the X-Men books and Thor. And then I hear this event's coming called the Empyre, and it's involving the unification of the Kree-Skrull for the first time in God knows how long. And I and besides knowing about the Kree-Skrull War in vague details, I do not know what the hell's going on, and I had to do like several tons of research in order to get this. Luckily, uh, there's a Road to book that basically gives you some guiding information about what the hell happened during the Kree-Skrull War and talking about it from the perspective of a family. But yeah, that's that. Yeah, so don't expect me to be 100% accurate with the continuity. So I'm just doing this from the perspective of, hey, let me just read a good story and whatnot. Let me just read a good event comic. That could mean something, right? And I didn't even know what Empire with the Y even meant. Like, I was wondering why it was called that. So I had to do research on that. And it turns out that Empire is actually the term for Empyrean, which is the highest heaven, the highest point of heaven. So there's a religious doctrine to this. So, yeah. So this is Road to Empire, a one shot about talking about the Kree-Skrull War. And like I said, it's from the perspective of a Skrull family, and this is involving a family of Skrulls who are in disguise as humans called the Warner family. And let's get right into this. Encrypted message to Skrull High Command. Project Blossom mission update filed by General whatever his name is, alias Gloria Warner. 16th attempt transmission. We were sent to Earth to live among humans. However, our property rentals were horribly screwed. My mate, Colonel Clark, aka alias Carl Warner, and I formed a family unit, raising our offsprings on this planet. Madison, Alice, and Ivy. Perfect daughters, perfect soldiers. Yes, we certainly learned Earth culture, and therefore know that there are child soldiers in war. We never wavered in our dedication, even after we lost Ivy. Attempting to uncover the creators of Project Blossom, a new tech developed to reveal scrolls hidden on Earth, we suffered another blow when we were betrayed by our own handler, Monolith. He murdered Colonel Carl, my husband, but all was not lost, even after the destruction of my family home and whatnot. Before his death, Carl had discovered Ivy was still alive. She had been tortured and her blood used to create the technology meant to expose and destroy us as part of the grand purge of the Kree Empire. Project Blossom grew from Ivy's pain. We found and terminated Monolith. While Ivy continues to recover, our family returned to its mission. We will find the monsters trying to expose Skrulls hidden on Earth and destroy them. Yes, we shall cleanse the Earth of the Kree that dwell within our world. Wait. Most of our fellow undercover Skrulls were found and assassinated. Any possible survivors have not reported in. We are alone, but we are all we need to serve Hive Command because we are together. Long live the Skrull Empire. Long live my family. Besides my husband, we were on the verge of getting divorced anyways. Filing a field report again? Why do you bother, Mom? Orders are orders, Ivy. Madison, Alice, is the lab secure? Lab was so empty it was pretty easy to secure. It wasn't completely empty, Madison. Mom, you need to see this. Readings indicate a life form that worked in this lab and was not human. They were Kree, and they were studying the sample. It wasn't part of Project Blossom. It's something they found in the field recently. Is that what I think it is? Wait, what is it? I'm genuinely confused. It was, you never do your homework, human or Skrull. Shut up, Alice. Yeah, shut up. How dare you lecture me about my education? This is what I get for raising my children on Earth. Alice is right, Madison. This here is a part of our history. It's part of what started the war between the Skrull and the Kree. So, they go into detail about the Kree and Skrull conflict, what led to it, how the Skrull were once a more peaceful peaceful empire where they conquered the galaxy not through intimidation or strength, but through trade, which is a very interesting fascination. It's like reminding me of Spore, you know, that game where you go ahead and build an empire from nothing and essentially expand beyond your reach, and you can do it through trade. Doric offers Skrull technology in exchange for resources fidelity. Every part he encountered peacefully became part of the Skrull Empire. But then one day they came across the Kree. However, compared to the Kree back then, they were more savage than they are now. However, on Hala, there is another group of people living on there, the Kotati, which are basically giant plant creatures that are very peaceful. So, the Skrull Emperor, who is, Skrull Emperor Doric the First, yeah, he went ahead and essentially decided, okay, you know what, we're going to do a competition. You two species will do this. You will go to an isolated moons of each and build a civilization. After 1 year in isolation, you will be on Earth's moon. And they would be deemed ruler of Hala, and then the planet would become part of the Skrull Empire. The Skrull, the Kree did things, the Kotati did things, they wished to learn and grow, so they accepted. 17 of their kind were left on a remote moon, and Morag and the Kree were determined to win the contest, and they were taken to Earth's moon. And basically they built a civilization of industry, whereas the Kotati pursued peace and harmony and they grew a garden. And they kind of build a peaceful universe basically. So naturally, the logical conclusion by this Kree is kill the Kotati. We'll just slaughter them. And then we'll kill their emperor. They kill the emperor of Doric. And yeah. What went from being peaceful to trade became, okay, let's just blow each other up. So war was nonstop, and she gives more to the backstory about her and her father and how her parents before were whatnot. And then they talk about Earth. The day everything changed when they encountered the Avengers. Specifically at this time, it was Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Scarlet Witch, Vision. So, the standards. And then the daughter asks, and we're still fighting, Mama? But why? For the Skrull Empire. But you just said it yourself, we were peaceful once. Can't we be again? How dare you have different opinions and thoughts about the whole situation. Don't you know that leads to dangerous thoughts? Ivy, for all we know, the Kree had this sample to ensure they could completely wipe the Kotati from existence once and for all. Girls extracting messages from the comms, encrypted or otherwise. I want everything and run the trace to the Kree. What about the Celestial Messiah? So I see Seth Rollins is finally going ahead and ascended to godhood from his Messiah teachings on Raw. Maybe that is a sample from him. Maybe that's just a story, Ivy. Now let's get back to the safe house. There's work to still be done. And they're at a horrible motel, so that sucks. I may not know history, but I do know encryption. And that lab recently received a subspace transmission. It's broken up, mostly static, but I should be having something soon. That's my girl. What's wrong, Ivy? I'm just tired. Maybe you just need some rest. I'm not that kind of tired, Alice. The Celestial Messiah is real. Who was he? A chance at something we've never experienced. Peace. And then she goes on to this prophecy about the Celestial Messiah and how a perfect human female and a Celestial Modana and a Kotati, their union would produce the Celestial Messiah, and that child could change the course of the universe. Well, yeah, when it comes to the idea of change the course of the universe, it's called the Infinity Gauntlet, the Cosmic Cubes, Thor's Hammer, Asgard being destroyed multiple times. Yeah, virtually this is nothing compared to like all the other game-changing events or the Annihilation Wave during the Annihilation Crisis. So they talk about the Kotati and about these priests that took them in and planted them all over the universe, even on Earth, and they lived among the plants there undetected until the prophecy came true. Someone named Mantis, a powerful empath, an Avenger, a chosen one. She was the celestial Madonna. Her dead lover, the swordsman, bonded with the Kotati, and the chosen one made of her choice of her own. Their union bore a son. And I'm not even going to try his name and whatnot. They raised him in secrecy on Earth until he was called like his mother before him, and how he left, and how he revenged, and how Thanos unleashed his Thanos warriors on to retrieve the boy, but Earth's heroes intervened during the conflict. So, did the Koi change the universe? Well, considering how this is the Marvel Universe and status quo is the most popular thing ever, no. The Celestial Messiah did not. In his way, he remained out in space helping restore an area known as the Rot, undoing the damage Thanos has done. Then it was just a story. Maybe the story's still being told. There will be no peace with the Kree, certainly not one brought about by a tree. Yes, it will not be brought about by a tree, even though we had a war that started over trees. Wait. Then the daughter asked, "But Mom, how long can we keep fighting? As long as it takes." Yes, even after we bankrupted our economy, destroyed everything, destroyed and burned bridges with almost everybody, and had the Avengers kick our ass repeatedly. But we're not going to talk about that. So the other third daughter goes ahead and hacks everything and says, "I got something. Tell me what you..." And then it explodes. So, yeah, the Kree just went ahead and murdered a bunch of family members, only to reveal that they didn't die. It turns out that, it turns out when this happened, Ivy transformed into a beast and spat them out. Gross! They even said that was gross, and then they asked, "Ivy, how did you do that? I mean, thanks for saving us, but that was so gross. I'd rather have been burned alive than be spat on. I've been trained working on getting my shape-shifting back to where it was. I want to help. Ivy, are you okay?" "I'm fine, Mom. I'm sorry I snapped at you. Hugs later. We got moved to whoever made us find out we're not dead. Let's try again, Madison. Tell me what you found." "I tracked the Kree. Their last known coordinates are punched into the GPS already. The subspace transmission they received only contained 5 words. There are too many gaps between them for full context, but what does it say? Attention Kree, this is Hulkling." "Hulkling? He's part Skrull, but clearly talking from his Kree part of that message. Computer, pull up everything you have on Hulkling now." Accessing data files known as Hulkling, and also known as Theodore Teddy Altman. Birth origins as follows. I don't know who this guy was. When I heard the name Hulkling, I was like, oh, so he's a fan of the Hulk. So I had to look this up. So he was part of the Young Avengers team, and how he's the product of both a Kree and a Skrull and whatnot, and the Union to Sun. However, due to the fact that there's a war, they had to hide him in secret, so they tried to convince him that he was a mutant in a world filled with them, and he then helped form the Young Avengers. So that was a fun time. And then he lived as a human, found love as a human. It turns out he's LGBT, so okay. But the truth did not stay hidden forever. Hulkling learned of its origins, part Skrull and part Kree. His true allegiance currently unknown. Guess his allegiance isn't unknown anymore. He was communicating with the Kree. We don't know what they were communicating about, though. Ivy, the Kree are who they are, or who they are. They will not stop until our kind is eradicated. Over plants! And what about us? When will we stop? She doesn't answer. Mom, we're here. Then they find their target. And then one of the daughters says, "We kill him, and then what?" And Ivy, I love you. You've been through so much. Clearly you aren't ready to be back in the field yet. I don't know what they told you in captivity. They didn't tell me anything. No one talked to me for months. This is me talking. It doesn't have to be like this, Mom. There was peace once. Years ago, life forms from all over the galaxy sent representatives to watch over the trial of the Phoenix. Raskar was representing the Skrull, Beldan the Kree. Even during the agreed upon truce, the two found cause to battle each other. The trial concluded without them, left alone. They battled for months until finally the Watcher put an end to their fight. The Skrull and Kree agreed to appoint each other to them as their champions. Their winner would determine a victory between their two races once and for all. And so their war continued. They fought each other, no matter who got in the way. Against the common enemy, they joined forces. Yes, they kicked everyone's asses. Specifically, the Inhumans, the Fantastic Four, with She-Hulk. Yeah, she was part of the team, apparently. And they learned that together they were unstoppable. The Watcher declared the war over and there was peace. But Ivy, that whole affair was a ruse. The humans and Inhumans and the Watcher played a trick on them. Of course it was a ruse, but that doesn't matter. I mean, like, granted, we staged the whole event, we manipulated them, and we tried to act like it never happened, but the war still went on. Because the result was peace. Who cares how it came to pass? Oh, then, that doesn't really work when you lie, and it leads to a horrendous resuming of that war, except probably worse. The man in that house is directly responsible for your father's murder, and I forgive him. As I forgive you, I learned to be Christian true. As I forgive you for raising us in this life. She looks conflicted. She then gets out of the car and says, "Make your own choice, girls. I've made mine." Then she slams open the door, only to be petrified, to realize that, oh, they're living like a family here too. But then she raises her gun and says, "By order of the Skrull Empire, Mom, please." And she just can't bring herself to be the very thing that what they did. Even though that would lead to 100 different questions, but I don't think they directly knew they were acting like a family unit, like this family unit. He says thank you, but then gets a communication from somebody. "Attention all Kree and Skrull soldiers in the field. Your Emperor, Doric the 8th, speaking. Skrull and Kree on Mars are last joined. The collective armies of both our empires fly now as one to face and destroy a common enemy. We fly to Earth. To be continued in the thrilling pages of Empyre." So what happened was that in this growing era, so in the events of the incoming one-shot, the 90-page graphic novel essentially, at the end of it, it's revealed that Hulkling was given an offer, and he eventually accepted the offer, which involves him becoming the new Emperor of the Kree and Skrull, becoming the Alliance, and saying that the final war begins now. So yeah, Hulkling is now the Emperor of both the Kree and the Skrull, and how he's a product of both their wars. And then we're also given more details about what to read and whatnot, recommendations about what to read in order to understand, the whole context of the story, such as the Avengers Kree-Skrull War, Avengers the Complete Celestial Madonna Saga, Fantastic Four Visionaries by John Bryan, Young Avengers, Alan Heinberg and Jim Ching, the Complete Collection. Find these trade paperbacks or on Marvel Unlimited. And showing the advertisements of the upcoming Empyre stuff, and the eventual tie-ins that will come from it. The first issues will be Empyre Zero Avengers and Empyre Zero Fantastic Four, before finally reaching to Empyre. Now, originally it was supposed to start the week following the release of this comic, however, the virus hit and we were all fucked. So, yeah, the comic industry kind of stopped, and now it just took them a lot longer than it should have been, but, we have to be safe about this, and we have to protect ourselves, but yeah, the comic industry had big plans going in for them, and then when this happened, everything kind of deflated for fans, and they lost a chunk of money. So, yeah. This storyline technically started back in January. The reason why I'm not talking about Incoming is because it's involving a murder mystery, and there was a bunch of interconnected stories, and all this other story importance that were supposed to fill up for other stories, like the X-Men going on. And they're all connected by this murder, except the X-Men really weren't. But yeah, it mostly involves Hulkling becoming the new Emperor of both the Kree and the Skrull. And people were like shocked that this was happening, because the Kree and Skrull, to many, is like, you can't imagine the Kree and Skrull working together. There have been so many countless stories of them fighting amongst one another. It's virtually impossible to imagine it ever being peaceful. And then some people actually said in the comment section that on a promo video for the Empyre story that they actually were crying tears because they never dreamed they would be around to see this event happen. Not the event as in the idea as the story. I mean, like the event of the Kree-Skrull finally saying, "Let's put an end to our crap," and declare we have a common enemy. I'll get to the advertisement part in when I talk about Empyre, the main series, but yeah, that's the gist of this issue. So those were my thoughts on Road to Empyre. I certainly enjoyed it. It was a good one shot. It helped us get some basic stuff to get to in order to understand the context of stories, and I'm glad they pitched the ideas of what stories we can get in order to understand what's going on more in detail, and especially the Hulkling character. So yeah, it was a pretty neat story. The artwork's pretty good. Even transitioning to different art ways in order to represent the eras that Marvel was in at the time, like the Kree-Skrull War and the Celestial Madonna stuff. But yeah, good story in my opinion. Really love the perspective of the Kree and Skrull being while both savagery and their conflict, but also mirroring some similarities to realize we are not so different. So yeah, so it's gonna be interesting. I wonder if we'll ever see these family again, or they're just here for the one shot. But yeah, those were my thoughts on Road to Empyre: The Kree-Skrull War. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more.